The possession of the knowledge of higher laws confirms the brothers of humanity as the leaders of evolution. Thus, let us regard the brothers of humanity as the link binding us with the universal manifestations. The Mahatmas of Shambhala have been guiding human evolution for millennia. To bring about the advance of evolution, to bestow affirmed truth and knowledge, and to link humanity with the currents of evolution. This stimulus inspires each move of an Arhat. Yes, yes, yes. Thus we serve the progress of humanity. The brothers of humanity outline the plan for human evolution and reveal all the chosen ways of progress. Thus, the brothers of humanity are the propellers of evolution. Not we humans ourselves, but our leaders, the hierarchy, have brought about the most important progress in history. We alone could never have reached the current level. Where can one find a leading ray, if not in hierarchy? Humanity has been drawing its power, not from within itself, but from the power of the great hierarchy. Thus, through centuries, our creativeness has guided humanity. Thus, man can be directed only by the higher power of hierarchy. The best steps of humanity were built by hierarchy. The best achievements were realized by hierarchy. Thus one can attain the goal only through hierarchy. The Mahatmas have led us out of barbarism. If they had not given us guidance, we would still be at the Stone Age level today. If it were not for the great self-sacrifice of a small group of the highest spirits, who, through eons, have incarnated among the people at the great turning points in the history of the planet, in order to give a new impulse to the human consciousness, and if their efforts had not been continued on by a small number of their disciples and the co-workers of these disciples, our humanity would even now be on the level of the cave dwellers. Very concretely and in an entirely earthly manner, the brothers are constantly intervening and physically helping on earth. Can our community intervene in the affairs of the world and render active assistance? In the name of the common good, it is concerned with the solution of world affairs. There can be traced in scientific literature a series of psychic and physical influences. There are well-known cases of the sending of objects of great significance. There are known dispatches of sums of money. There are known forewarnings of danger. There are known letters about the solution of affairs. We have had steamship tickets and costumes of different countries. We have had different names and have appeared when circumstances imperatively required it. Already I see that someone is indignant and calls the above fairy tales, whereas before his eyes, a university received a donation from an unknown person, and also to an acquaintance of his there was brought a valuable bust from someone unknown. Shambhala has sent its members, disciples, and representatives as messengers, philosophers, kings, scientists, inventors, military leaders, or prophets to the focal points of history in order to advance the development of mankind. One may investigate in history how systematically powerful helpers are sent from the fiery world, who take upon themselves the burdens of the world and who plant magnets for the future. Precisely, the great archangels, the 7 Kumaras, came from the higher worlds, and they made the greatest sacrifice by incarnating as the great founders of religions, kingdoms, and philosophies during all the turning points in the history of the planet, in order to quicken the evolution of humanity. The study of history proves, again and again men were acting, relying on instructions and warnings from above. The observance of the advices and warnings were decisive for the fate of the peoples concerned. All over the world one can find established landmarks of our guidance. Some enlightened people accepted it, but some poor parodies of monarchs rejected our counsel and thereby plunged their countries into calamity. The history of all times and peoples has witnessed this help, which for each country is always given at the turning point in its history. The acceptance or the refusal was invariably followed by either the flowering or the downfall of the country. This help was manifested in the form of warnings or advice, or even complete teachings. Such warnings run through history like a red thread. Why are the conditions on earth nevertheless so terrible? Because, unfortunately, most of the instructions were ignored. With a few exceptions, all such warnings remained unaccepted. Here are some examples. People do not understand our appeal to Queen Victoria, yet history has shown how right we were. Our warning was rejected. Nevertheless, it is our duty to warn the nations. Similarly, our warning to Moscow was not understood. One can mention events from the history of various countries. Recall Napoleon and the manifestation in Sweden. Remember that 10 years ago the ruin of Spain was foretold. The sign of salvation had been given, but, as usual, it was not accepted. We hasten to send help everywhere and rejoice when it is accepted. We are sorrowed to see what destiny nations prepare for themselves. One may recall an arrogant monarch who, before World War I, received our warnings, but preferred to lose his throne by rejecting our advice. Likewise, another head of state did not want to listen to our ambassador and preferred to plunge his country into confusion. It cannot be said that in ancient times indications were given more often. Now also many such counsels are given, but as usual the ear of humanity is deaf. We stand vigil the world over. To our own greatest detriment, we humans did not thank our elder brothers for their efforts, but rather chose to crucify them. Truly one is amazed at the inexhaustible patience of the great teachers, who through incalculable eons have accepted the most oppressive, the most difficult incarnations for themselves, in order to move and raise the consciousness of ungrateful humanity, which constantly and in every way has persecuted and crucified its liberators and saviors. I once saw on the beach a dog looking for a master, and people ridiculing him by throwing stones into the sea for him to retrieve. Today's masterless humanity offers a similarly distressing and very sad picture. While the vast majority of human monads came to Earth from a lower planet, namely the Moon, the Mahatmas come from higher worlds, such as Venus or Jupiter. Verily, compared to us earth dwellers, Christ and Buddha are indeed far off stars of the spirit. Let us remember that they, and also the Lord Maitreya, came from Venus at the dawn of the formation of physical man. Therefore, they are our divine forefathers and masters. The elder brothers of mankind establish the connection between the earth and their homelands, those higher planets, which are so much further advanced in their spiritual development than we are. The higher ones send us bliss. We transmit it to you. One of those high spirits returned to his own planet in order to establish an exchange of communications with the earthly stronghold of the Brotherhood, and to find conditions for transmissions of thought, and for sending new elements which are not yet to be found in the atmosphere of our planet, but which would help to discharge the accumulated darkness. All such possibilities are achieved by persistent experiments and research, and collaboration between the greatest spirits on both planets. Verily, infinite are the possibilities and discoveries. Isn't that just fantastic illusion? No. According to the law of hierarchy, there must be higher beings than even the Mahatmas, and also a living connection between these two levels. The Mahatmas are the sons of the Sun, or the sons of God, of whom the Bible speaks in the book Genesis, who descended from higher worlds, in order to accelerate the evolution of humanity. The solar ancestors, the sons of light, came from the higher worlds, Venus and Jupiter, to our planet at the end of the third race of our round, for the hastening of the evolution of humanity. Since that time, they have continuously incarnated on the threshold of all races and all great events, so that each time they could give a new impulse to the consciousness of humanity. Verily, their lives are paved with self-sacrificing heroic achievements. Verily, they have drained many chalices of poison. Thus, in the time of Atlantis, they were the founders of the great brotherhood on the sacred island. So also they are the guardians of the Trans-Himalayan stronghold during our race. They produced offspring of a higher level and thereby ennobled the race living here. Intellect began its development on the physical plane during the fourth root race of our fourth cycle, when complete immersion into matter took place. But the impetus for its development was given by the great spirits, the sons and daughters of wisdom, Elohims, who came from the higher worlds and were incarnated at the end of the third race. Precisely through their incarnations and their direct progeny, they transmitted to humanity an organism far more refined, capable of responding to higher vibrations. Are our elder brothers still busy seducing young girls for the purpose of breeding a higher race? No. The new man of the sixth race will not be born physically. He will appear through the Mahatmas, using the fire of their spirit to ignite the fire of the soul of some receptive individuals. This will put them in a state of higher vibration, of higher spirituality, which actually makes them higher beings. Likewise, contact with their high fiery auras kindled the fires in those who were near them. No physical contact is required for this. You may kindle your fire through spiritual communion with your teacher in meditation, or simply by studying the messages of the masters, the writings of Agni Yoga.